Okay. Today I'm going to take the same stone, this guy. I've done a little drawing already, just the outline. I'm going to do them in watercolor today. And I've got my watercolors set up over here. These are some old colors I've mixed, so I'm just going to be using them. And put my glass there. And my brushes. Okay. I haven't used a regular watercolor brush in a while. Okay, so first, get the brush, make sure it's wet all the way down in. You know, you've got a nice full load of water. And then roll it, bring most of it off so it's at a nice point. And this rock is very blue. So I'm going to take some of this sort of bluish color here, and I'm just going to make it a nice wash. Okay. I don't want it to be too dark at first. It's actually grayer in real life, but we're working from the photo, so you guys can all work at the same time. So I'm going to test it here first to see how that's I want a little more water in it, a little lighter. And since it's a wash, I'm letting my whole brush have the color. And I'm just going to fill the stone in with just a soft blue-gray at first. I'm not going to, I didn't wet this paper first, and I maybe should have because it's a fairly big space, but I think it's okay. Okay. I'm going to let it dry for a little bit. So I'm not going to load my brush this time. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of the wash, maybe make it slightly darker and slightly grayer. So I'm going to take my blue and add just a touch of red and a tiny touch of yellow, too much, tiny touch of yellow, until I get a grayer. Look, you see how that's, if it's too green, that means you've got a little bit too much yellow in it, so it's reacting with the blue, but I think this is okay. Okay. Here's my dilemma. I always like to turn my paper, so I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to hope it's still in the frame, because I like to work from the dark to the bottom. It's still in the frame. All right. So I'm going to take, so now I'm following the dark side of the shadow. And I don't want it to have a tight edge, so I'm going to dampen that edge a little bit so it's a little softer. So I don't want the edge to be too strong. Okay. Okay, that's a good start. Now, I'm already thinking about that reflected light, so I might just try to pull out a little bit, even in that shadow. Okay. Leave it alone, leave it alone. I don't know if you can see that slightly lighter already right there. And now I'm going to go up in here and start to add some of this darker shadow. And I'm gonna I just add a little water to my brush down on this edge. Okay. So I'm gonna go in again. While it's still damp, just put in a little bit in there. A little bit more. It's a little too wet. I'm just drying my brush off a bit. Pick up some of those edges. So then you get that softness. I'm going to go over to this side now and add a little bit of dark just along that edge. Again, wipe my brush off, come back, soften it up a bit. Okay. All right. Just like with graphite, you want to really protect these lighter edges. I can see this looks a lot greener. I'm not too concerned. I'm going to add a little blue. It's a little bit of blue, just a touch, teeny tiny touch. Okay. Okay, wipe the brush off a little bit. Okay, I'm going to start working. See, I want to see if this is still pretty wet. I'm going to let it dry a bit. I'm going to go back over here and just drop in a tiny bit of a darker edge there. Okay. And now I'm just going to start dabbing in, because remember, it's a stone. So as I start getting up to the layers that are more visible, I want them to have a little texture. So I'm going to just start adding a little more depth in these dark bits. And you can see how I'm letting it be broken on the edges. And here I'm going to go a little lighter and even work around that reflected light by just going with little dabs of color, but not right in that reflected light part. So I'm going to let it break up a little bit around the reflected light part. Okay, so you guys are getting used to my paint speak. I have been told that I am making you all very sleepy by some, very relaxed, dropping heart rates. And I have been told that I'm the new Mr. What's his name? The guy we used to love on TV that painted all the mountain scenes and had the fro, painted all those wonderful scenes. But the main thing was his voice. Man, he could just, didn't matter how stressed you were, if you put on that TV show on PBS and listened to him, you could just feel your heart rate drop. Just such a nice man. His paintings were very basic, but they were nice for people that just wanted to have fun and make a painting of a mountain and a lake and a tree. And kind of like the wine and the wine and drawing painting classes they have now, where People come and they all paint the same painting while they have a glass of wine. So you can see I'm going back up here. And just putting in more, just building up the darks. And you're saying, oh my God, Laura, this is going to take as long as it did with pencil, because now you've started with the little dots. But I'm layering light values of dots, little textures, instead of little textures of graphite. And I hope this is in frame. I better check. Yep, it's in frame. Yeah, okay, everything's in frame. Let's make sure I'm actually filming. Okay. Okay. Now you can also do glazing if you find your color is not quite what you wanted it to be. Like my colors, I think my sense of color, I always tend to go lighter and brighter with my paints. Even my oil paints, everything I paint with a different kind of hue. So I'm just trying to move in on this, trying to pay attention to these transitions up in here, from this dark up to the light. And I'm not as dark as I need to go yet, but I don't want to go there all at once. I'll build into that dark, and then I'll work my way up out of the dark. And if I feel like it's getting a little not really doing what I want, I can always go in with a damp brush, soften what I've done, and then come back out. But so far, this is okay. And it's too soon to tell. Okay. So and mix a little bit more of this. I'm going to put a little bit of an orange in it. There we go. Orange. You see this orange I mixed? Orange and ultramarine blue make a fantastic gray. And if it's a blue-gray you want, you do a little more of the ultramarine blue. If it's a warmer brown you want, you do a little more of the orange. So I think this is pretty much what I want. It's still staying in the blue area. So, let's see. Okay, I'm going to go up here. My brush is a little too wet. Okay. And I'm going to come up here. And blend this out a bit. This is just with a damp brush. Okay, I'll let that, just leave that alone for a little bit. I don't want to overwork it. Okay. Okay, back to the gray. So I'm going to work a little more on this area. I always like to do the darks first. Then you can sort of tell how far to go to preserve your lights. Because you can't get your lights back. if you lose them. And I've heard some of you say on your graphite rocks you felt like you just had big gray blobs. And if you ever have a blob of anything, usually means you didn't protect your lights enough. And you have to go back in and take care of the lights. Or next time, go a little slower, keep an eye on your light areas, and make sure you're not losing them. Okay, so just going along. Dab, dab, dab. And if I put a wash over this, all of these will become softer. So, I know I've been painting in oil so long. It's kind of nice to be back with the watercolors. And even the watercolors, when I've been doing them, often it's been nature journaling, so much more relaxed and easygoing with the watercolors. These transitions here, see, I want the dots even tinier. More close together. The closer together you put the dots, the smoother it gets. And now I'm just putting some really light dots in that reflected light area. I transition this one up onto the top of the rock. Okay. Now this one actually goes, if you see this gray right here, this amount of darkness just as it's starting to reach up over the top of the rock, almost combines with this gray coming down with just this slightly lighter area right here. So I'm going to try to just put a little bit of a light area right here, just with sort of just a gentle stroke. I don't want my brush too wet. I don't want globs of water. And then when it catches up to this side, I can start to do. You see how I'm almost using this like my pencil. I've just got the tiniest bit of gray wash on here. Oops. You can see that had a lot of gray. And I picked up a lot of green. Okay. Okay. Okay, that got a little strong. I know I just used my finger. Sometimes I do. Okay. I'm messing with that a little too much. light gray here. And then this is going to look much lighter as the darks move in on it. Got some pencil lines in there I need to get rid of. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back down here. I'm giving this some rest now, so I can go in more darks on top. Okay. Now up here, I'm doing really tiny dots. Okay. I want to get the texture. But they're small, they're not, these are more shadowy shapes, but these are more little bitty dots. So I'm only getting a little bit of soft color on my point, and then I am gently dabbing it into place because I don't want it to get too dark. This needs to get darker here. So I need to pick up some more color. Right in here. Hear the dogs. Ben's outside barking. Debbie's inside barking at Ben outside barking. I'm gonna have to break it up in a minute if he doesn't stop soon. It's okay, Debbie. Deb, it's all right. Now, when I started this video, I thought, oh, well, it's watercolor, so I can go fast. All I have to do is just lay in an underwash and pick up some colors. But the more you look at your subject, the more you see, and the more you see, the more details come out, and before you know it, you're right in the middle of it again. I think I'm going to just start to lay in a little shadow. It's okay, Debbie. That was like an Okay, Devs. Gotta come back when that's a little drier. Now you see how this shadow is very close to that rock, the stone. So I need to drop in a deeper color, more gray, and then you'll see that edge start to appear. It's like magic. Also has a little bit of shadow still over here. Probably jumped the gun on the shadow, but I just wanted to get a feel for it. Okay, so I'm going to make more of that gray for you. Okay, so you take a little bit of ultramarine blue, right? Clean your brush, pick up a little bit of orange, add it to the blue. See, still too blue. Need more orange. There we go. Maybe a little bit more orange, just a touch. There, gray. Magic. Okay. Okay. Where am I gonna go? I'm gonna go up here. Okay. I'm gonna soften both of these edges. Now I'm not going to get too worked up if this is like a little blotchy, because I'm going to put a lot of texture on top of it. But I want to keep this edge soft, so I'm going to keep going back in with just a clean brush. I don't want to see that edge. Okay, it's also kind of a green gray. All right, I let that dry. I'm going to turn it around a bit and work on this side. Hi, Benny. Your daddy let you in? Huh? Making himself comfortable.
You go on that pillow. He goes in that pillow. Everybody's on that pillow. And I'm going back to work.
You see here I'm doing a combination of soft strokes and texture. I got into the texture a little too fast. So I'm wanting to sort of just glaze in some darks over those textures, just to push the darks a little further. And then I can go up with some textures on top of those again. See, I hope I'm in camera. You guys see I keep making my little marks. Okay, so now I'm gonna just put some very watery textures in here. This is that thumbprint we talked about in the graphite section. If you put a texture down, it seems too strong, just go right back over it with your water and your brush, and soften the textury look. But you don't want to soften it too much because there is a lot of texture going on in here, right? All through this stone. So it's kind of a dance back and forth between using the texture to create shadow and then less and less paint on the brush as you move out into the highlight area. So remember what I talked about when you're picking up paint, only pick it up on the very point of your brush, not on the back, right? So then when you're dabbing, your dabs consecutively get lighter because they become more and more infused with water and less pigment. So you see how it started this dark and now it's almost invisible. So if you do that, if you have your brush loaded with paint, you're not going to get that effect of being able to go from one dark value, little dabs, and then to lighter value textures, because they are all to your advantage. The paper's a little drier here, so the texture's a little more evident. I'm not worrying about that because I want that texture. And when this gets drier on this side over here, I can lay texture over that. Still. And when I photographed these rocks, I had them by my window in the kitchen, on the kitchen table, and I photographed them with the light coming from one direction. So clearly the light was coming from the left across to give this bright highlight up here, dark shadow down here, and more mid-tone shadows in here where it's a more gentle slope. So if you are using, if you all are using your own rock, I saw Janet showed a really nice rock that was special to her that she did, really lovely. just give yourself, just like in botanical drawing, make sure you have one light source. Upper left, upper right, whatever you want to do, but only one. And that way you can have a consistent understanding of the shape that you're drawing. Because if you have light sources coming from more than one way, then it's not so easy. Okay. So I don't even know how many weeks we've been in this coronavirus shutdown. I just can't believe how many thousands of people have died. And I know it's happening all around us all the time. I just hope all of you are staying well, your families are staying well, and that, just do the best you can. Not really anything else we can do. I'm looking at this transition from this dark side into that side. It's starting to get some shape. This got a lot greener in here than that. I think I'm going to do like one consistent wash to sort of bring it back into play nice with the others. So it happens when I don't mix enough gray, and I keep changing my grays. But actually, I don't mind it because it allows for some soft differences in the stone and the way the light hits it. So it's not really terrible. And when I get more color in here, I could probably make this down here, add a little more green into that. Yeah, there you go. And then everybody looks like they're playing together. I'm not so concerned if you get the exact color. I'm more concerned about trying to create the shape. So if your color is slightly off, don't worry about it. Okay. So I've got that blue. I'm going to add a little more orange again. Bring it back to gray. Okay. All right. Okay, should I try that shadow again? I think it's dry enough. Yeah, that's better. I'll come back and put another layer on it in a second. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back up here. A little dark, so I wiped off my brush. I'm going to come back in here and just spread that modeling around a little bit. There we go. All right. Let's start carrying this further down. Now I'm doing more scribble scrabble. You guys see that? Now, the main thing here is what? Keep track of your lights and keep track of your values. Okay, this is still gray here. It's not white, so I have to go in here with like a really light touch of gray. And I'm doing a scribbly kind of touch. So I don't want it stark white, but too dark. Okay, that's better. Okay. I'm going to try to edit this one with window in window. I'm going to try to edit it so you can see my watercolor palette up in a little window. While you're seeing me paint. And hopefully it'll work. I never knew becoming an art teacher meant learning how to film. And now I'm filming with 2 cameras at once, my iPhone 6 and my new iPhone. And I'll edit them in together. Oh, Karen, if you're listening, Apple has a new iPhone, and it's small, like the iPhone 6, I think. It's the same size as the size. Well, you have the even tinier one, but it's a nice size, and it's cheaper. But for those of you that really didn't enjoy going up in size, there's an alternative now. Now I see what I did here. I sort of cut that off a little bit. Okay, all right. Starting to come to form. Still too green. I'm a little worried that if I push it too much, I'm going to start to lose the values. Let's see. I also don't want to work it till it becomes mush. Okay, that's okay. All right. And just see if I'm still in camera. Yep, still in camera. Okay. It'd be amazing if this works. Okay. All right, it's coming along. Now, right up here, I've got a pencil line that's showing up on my drawing, and I think this is dry enough that I can still lift it. Yeah, whew. Okay, that worked. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go back in with a little more shadow here, but I'm just gonna dampen it first. And then I'm gonna pick up some color. Along that damp edge. And let it bleed out. Yep, that's better. This has to go. This has to get darker here. Okay, it's coming. Certain things you just can't rush them. Okay. I have a little mauve here. I have no idea how I mixed it. So I think I'm just going to, to darken this a bit more. Put a little bit of a different color, because remember, one color will only get you so far. So as soon as I put a little bit of a purple hue over this rock, it gets a little darker. Yeah, magic. There. Okay, dry it off. Wiggle it around a bit. Definitely knocked the green back. You can also do the scribble scrabble on the edges to kind of soften them up a bit. All right, I gotta get a little more courageous with this to let these textures move up here a little higher into this lighter part of the value. See, I'm hardly picking up any tint at all now because I'm gonna be going up into the lighter part of the stone. And remember, when your watercolors dry, they dry a little lighter than they do when you put them down. So you might think, I've gone way too dark. And sometimes you do go way too dark. But sometimes, if you just let the painting dry and breathe for a while, you'll find out you didn't go too dark at all. You're fine. And you can always lift, you know, if you did get too dark, although you want to avoid that if you can. I hope this one doesn't take an hour. You know, you guys can always watch these in increments. You don't have to sit and watch the whole hour. Blue. Orange. Magic. Gray. This looks okay. Decided to put a little more wash on here again. My darks start getting darker. My lights almost look too bright. Maybe so if we go in and we put more shadow under this guy, right there. There we go. Okay. Gotta let that dry. See what happened there? How it started to pick up. Okay. All right. Let's see. Come over here again. A bit more. Alright, I think it's starting to look pretty good. I'm gonna let it dry a minute. Take a little break. Go get a cup of tea. I'll be right back. Okay, back again. Took a little bit of a break. Okay. I can see that I've gotten carried away with the highlight under the stone. Stone is much darker. That highlight is very minimal. So I'm gonna pick up some more color, and I'm gonna start going in here. That's gonna be better. Sometimes we preserve the light so carefully, we're afraid to go in with dark, and like this clearly needed to be darker. And once this is darker, that glow will appear lighter. But you want the glow to be subtle. You don't want it to be like a big white highlight under there because it's underneath the stone. So you want it soft, more like that. That's better. So now I need to add a little more shadow in here. That's better. Okay, now see this? I keep thinking I've done enough of a wash on top of that stone because it always looks so dark. But it's still too light. So I'm gonna go in again. And see if that's better. And I might need to go in again and again because sometimes you think is dark enough. Once it dries, really isn't dark enough. Okay, right. Okay, so one of the tricks to this is just never get your values too dark all at once. You want to be able to build up these subtle layers so you can control them and take your time. Because if you go in too hard, too fast, you're not going to get the subtle transitions you're hoping to get. As the light moves across the stone and throws shadows. It's just not gonna work. So, as always, you have to slow down, really slow. Have anybody heard of slow TV? Don't know if it's still on. It became, I think in Europe first, became a really popular thing. And it's actually, it's sort of like, in Christmas time when they have the Yule log, where it's just a fireplace burning, nothing else is happening. But with this, it's people took these sort of endless movies of things like camera on the front of a train going through Europe. And you'd hear the train tracks, clickety clack, and the whistle, and whatever environmental noises were going on, and you'd see like lakes go by and pastures and animals in the pastures, and it was just sort of like eternal background television. And you could go through Holland or the high country in England or all these different places, and so this is like slow video. So slow time video with Laura. You guys always said you wanted to be able to watch me paint, so here you go. I hope I don't mess it up, because if I mess it up after investing this much time, I really don't want to paint the rock again. But I think you'll all find your chances of messing it up are not as great if you move slow. You just gotta move slow. And if you go too fast, you're in a heap of trouble. Okay. So this shadow here is almost as dark as the rock. Carefully. Okay, all right. I'm coming into the end. Put a really light wash out here. Really light. Really super light. You never want the shadow to be the star. It's a supporting character. So don't make big, dark, crazy shadows. Okay. I go up here some more. So whenever you change the value of one part of the rock, it changes the value of the part of the rock that's next to it. So every time I make my shadows a little darker, my highlights get a little brighter because of the contrast between the high light and the low light. So that's why every now and then I have to go in and do another wash over what was my white, because it becomes too stark. I want some of these textures a little sharper, a little more evident, so little tiny dots. tiny, tiny. So you get the feeling it's little crevices and see, there's deep little bits in there, little shadows. Now, everybody's rock is going to look different. Nobody's technique is going to be exactly the same. But the main rule you want to keep in mind when you're trying to do a rock is go slow. Keep looking at your rock. Even when you think, oh, I got this, I know exactly what this rock looks like, I don't have to look at it anymore, you'll start to lose the shape. You'll start to lose it. The rock will start to look like a blob. And none of us want a blob, right? Nobody wants a blob. Okay. See, that's really bright there. So I'm gonna go ahead and have a little more courage with this shadow. But I have to do a little bit of blending. I think I'm just about done. This is driving me crazy. There's like a piece of paper right here that's resisting. And every time I try to draw on it, it just picks up. So I'm going to soften that whole edge out, let it dry, and then come back, drop in. Let's see if it'll drop in now. That's better. You think if I whisper it won't know I'm coming with more paint? It'll accept the paint. It says, oh, here comes Laura. She's going to try to get more paint in there. And we're not going to let her. See, I did it again. Okay, definitely got to just leave that alone for a second. Okay. Getting tired. This needs to be darker here. So you see, I'm going in my brush flat. Going right over that area. Up here. Picking just that edge up a tiny bit. Got a little too high, so I'm just wiping off my brush till it's damp. There, that's better. Okay. What do I need to do? Okay, I'm gonna try to put a little bit of just a bit of a shadow on the top here, just to represent the table, because it's got a little bit of a value that's darker. Okay, that's like, just gonna dampen it a bit first. Okay. This side is there, it's okay. All right. Okay, take this, just along that edge. Okay. That's good. Just softening the line a bit. Okay. All right. Okay. I think that's all right. There's even like a little hole right there. There's a couple of little divots. Too dark? Wipe my brush off. Pick it up a little bit. There you go. Another one over here. Again, too dark. Wipe my brush off. Pick it up. There we go. think I'm just about done. I could work on this for hours, but I just want to give you guys a demonstration in a plausible amount of time. So you can see the technique, and you can paint your own rock. Hey, now this looks too white again. Take a little bit. There we go. That's better. Okay, I don't like the shadow on top, but it's too late now. It's in there. I could lift it, but I'm not going to bother. Let's see if I can mess with it. Make it a little smoother. That's a little better. Okay, guys. I think that's it. So I used ultramarine blue, and I made an orange out of cadmium red and cadmium yellow. So my colors were more leaning to the blue. I picked up a little green that was in my palette, so it got a little bit of a green tinge, but I don't mind. I don't mind. Okay, so that's it. Oh, and I only used my number 4 synthetic. This is a Blick Studio number 4 synthetic. And we're done. Okay. So hope you all are well. Hope you all have fun painting rocks. And I'll talk to you tomorrow in our class. Okay? Bye, everybody. All right. So, decided to get out my tiny brush. This is a number 1 synthetic. Don't know what brand it is. I got this up in Cape Cod one year when I forgot my brushes from the artist loft. So I just want to go in, see if I can capture some of the littler details, because this rock, I worked pretty fast, so there was a lot of dampness in it, and I just want to do a little more dry brush technique, not quite so littler dots. As they were almost blending, when it dried, I could see how light it got, and how much lighter it got, and which it always does with watercolor. Watercolor always dries lighter than it is when you first put it down wet. So I wasn't really getting those little details of more rocky stuff, you know, like just where you can see like little white dots and dark around it, little darker dots with white around it, or not white but gray. So to do that, I need to, oh, my brush is splitting. This isn't a very good brush. When my brush gets too dry, it starts to split. So I'm going in with some tinier dots. Picking out some little more detail. It's a rainy morning here today. And I'm looking forward to visiting with everybody later this afternoon online. I won't have this edited by then. It takes me a few hours to edit. I hope you guys are liking these videos. You know, it's sort of as a way of doing a little bit of a class without having to worry about being contagious. Good news today on the news, that drug, now I don't remember the name of it, that they are going to start using in patients, especially people that are in real dire straits. It seems to block the progression of the virus and create faster recovery. And thinking in the future, they might, it will also be useful for people in early stages, so the virus doesn't get so systemic. It's the same medication they used on Ebola, and the company that makes it says there's plenty to go around. So that's a relief. You know, it's not one of these, the company has already stepped up, and it would be nice to know, you know, that there is a treatment, and even if people get sick, they have a better chance of getting well. And there's some medication that might actually help. That would be a godsend. So scary. I'm doing these little tiny dots so I can get a little more character into the surface of the stone. And not have it quite as smooth as it was looking. Now when I get out into the lighter parts, I can still put some texture, but the textures will be a little further apart. So you still get the lightness of the stone with a hint of texture. Because as we know, when you're in the highlight area, there's a lot more light flooding into the nooks and crannies. So they also become lighter. Oh, I just realized, see this little brush is very split? Don't know if you can see it. It's actually helping because it's putting down several little marks at a time. I like that. So, sorry, little brush, that I wasn't happy about your behavior. So I can do a dry brush, as we've done in the past, you know, where we split a brush, so you get that multiple touches. That's absolutely fair game at this point. When you're trying to go in and pick up some color, then split it. And then just tamp down with those little points. Pick a little more color. Tamp down. Pick up a little more color. Split it. So, when I first began this rock, I thought, oh, watercolor. That'll go so much faster than graphite. Well, guess what? It didn't. It didn't go faster at all. Because when you're dry brushing and you're doing all these textures, you might as well be using a pencil because you're working on point with little bitty touches. So it takes time. If any of you are enjoying stones, you can, the nice thing about a stone and a photograph is you don't have to worry about the light changing. You can set up your own stones with a single light source. And they won't change, or you can photograph them with a single light source and use that and they won't change because you're not worried about the botany of a stone or what's under what leaf or how the stem is moving forward out of a cluster of blossoms. You know, you don't have to worry about all that because it's just a stone. So you could put together a collection of stones, like 3 stones. Compositionally, 3s work better than 2s. You could do them in a cluster. Just play around with them until you see you find a nice balance. You could do them in single line, horizontally, like 1 stone, 2 stone, 3 stone. Or you could do them vertically, 1 stone, 2 stone, 3 stone. Or you could stack them like a cairn, you know, a memory marker, and play around with all the cast shadows. So you could have a lot of fun with stone. Really sorry I put those shadows down. I do not like those shadows. They're not as bad as they were, but okay. I still need to get darker. See this? I'm protecting this too much. You see how much darker that is? So I have to go back in. The dogs are now used to me talking to myself when I'm in the studio. Debbie comes in and lays on her little bed. And Ben sometimes comes in and lays on his bed. Right now he's on our bed because it's kind of early in the morning. Andrew's just gone down to work. And I'm just doing this for a little bit before I get on with my day. It's going to be so rainy. I don't think I have much of a walk, but Ben likes to walk in the rain. So we'll probably go out for a while. Well, you just have to wait and see. That's all we can do. That's better. Now it's getting darker. See, sometimes you get so careful about something that that's better. It's more of a glow. At some point I do have to say I'm done. I realize that. Let's do some light spots down there. Thought about playing some music softly in the background, but I'm afraid if I put on music and it's identified by YouTube, you can get kicked off because of copyright. So I don't want to do that. The other thing I can do is learn how to lay in some music. I've been learning how to do that, so you can get music that's not protected, that's available to be used. So maybe I'll do a little more music for these times when I don't feel like I have to chat the whole time. There we go. That's looking kind of nice. Okay. Andrew and I have fallen into just a nice pattern. I work in the studio or outside, plein air. He works in the basement. We both get done at 4 o'clock. And then he goes down and exercises on a treadmill for his usual time. And I started doing yoga again after I've done it a little bit here and there. I tried chair yoga for a little bit, but the enthusiasm lasted about 3 days. I used to do it every day, my own practice for years. And I loved it because I felt so much stronger physically. My balance, I could really feel that my balance was strong. And as I've gotten older, all those things have definitely changed. And so I know that if I want to increase my strength and I want to increase my balance, that yoga is the best thing to do because it did it for me before. It could do it for me again. I'm so much older now. I can't do certain moves yet. You know, even doing a proper down dog, I don't have the strength in my upper arms. So I do my up dog and down dog against the fireplace wall. So I'm standing, but I'm still doing the same angles and the same stretching. And then I'm building up slowly on my arm strength with other positions on the floor until I can eventually do my old routine. So it's going to take time, as yoga does. Yoga's kind of like this. It takes time. Can't rush it. You have to go slow. If you rush it, you get injured. And I do love it. And I'm already feeling better. I haven't hurt myself yet. And I'm not doing chair yoga anymore. I'm back on the floor. Devi loves it. She loves to give me kisses when I'm on the floor. And Ben leaves the room. He's not too keen on it. She's like, oh, geez. Here she goes again. So, it's okay. So that's what I'm doing. I'm painting. I finished a commission on 2 doggies. I'll show that to you guys this afternoon. I'll show you. I'll give you a little video tour of the studio, what's going on. And so that was good. That came right when I needed it. Yeah. Okay, that's better. I could keep at this forever, but I don't want to wear you guys out. It's like, enough, Laura. Stop, please stop. So when you guys try your hand at a watercolor rock, remember how long it took your teacher to do a watercolor rock. Over an hour, 1 stone. So remember, go back through the video. You can roll back, roll forward with the cursor at the bottom of the video. Go back to the beginning, come back out to toward middle and end, and be patient. Remember, it's a meditation. It's definitely a meditation. Okay, just about done. Who knew iPhones would be so good for this stuff? And I've got 2 iPhones running. My old iPhone 6 is on the watercolor part of the video. And my new iPhone 11, which is the bomb, is overhead. And so I'm using my iMovie editor to put everything together in my Mac. And it's kind of fun. Okay, so I used a 4 and a 1. And I'm gonna call it done, okay? I can still see things I need to do to it, but I'm stopping. All right, take care, ladies. Be safe.